Welcome to the Big O Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe.
Still the same damn kid from Oklahoma, same old dreams hanging off my shoulders, wishing and waiting on a shooting star for all to see.
And now your host, straight out of Oklahoma, former Buffalo Bill, Jerry Ostroski.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma.
Welcome into another Big O Show. It is Thursday night on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. We are powered by Believe. Again, I'm the Big O Jerry Ostroski. We're going to get into this game we got going on Sunday Night Football, NBC prime time, and that game will kick off at 8:20 Eastern on Sunday night. The Buffalo Bills take a 3-0 record into M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore as they take on the 1-2 Ravens. Ravens are a 2-point favorite, and that over-under, folks, is at 47. And we got a lot of good stuff to talk about tonight. Dr. Brad Bowen from Driven Physical Therapy and Performance will be on in a few moments, and we'll talk about the Bills' injury report and what they've got going on, as there might have been some things brought to light this week about Taron Johnson. We'll get Dr. Bowen's opinion on that. And then I'm awful fired up. At 8:20, we're going to have on a guest from Believe in Ravens, and that will be none other than former NFL tight end Daniel Wilcox. He was an 8-year NFL vet, Super Bowl champion, played with the Ravens, the Bucks, and the Jets. And again, he is the host of Believe in Ravens. We'll have him on about 8:20. We'll get into this game a little bit and, just chop it up, figure out what's going on. And I've got a few questions for him, and I'm sure he's got a couple for me as well. But the Ravens and Bills Sunday night, last time these two teams met was October 2nd, 2022. It was at Baltimore. The Bills pulled out a 23-20 victory. If I remember correctly, kind of an ugly game, not necessarily the most pretty game. I think Josh Allen had some turnovers, struggled a little bit, but the Bills were able to get that win. And when you look at this matchup on Sunday night, the Buffalo Bills are 3-0. They're 2-0 at home, 1-0 on the road. The Ravens lost their game at home. They're 1-1 on the road. They lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. If you remember that game, it was a heartbreaker. Had a wide open guy in the end zone, missed him. Then the next play, they catch the ball in the back of the end zone, toes on the line. And once again, the Kansas City Chiefs find a way to win. Then they go to Las Vegas the next week. Really ugly performance by the Ravens. They lose that game to the Las Vegas Raiders. And then, of course, if you watch the game this past weekend, they absolutely dog-stomped the Dallas Cowboys, a game which was over at halftime. Bills, of course, 3-0, beat the Cardinals at home, Miami on Thursday night on the road, and then have a very, very dominant, almost flawless performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football this week. So the Bills, short week, but the 8:20 game will help being late on a Sunday night, give them a little bit more rest. Points scored per game, the Bills are first in the NFL with 37.3. Points scored per game, Ravens come in 11th at 23.7. Points allowed, which I think is the most important defensive stat. Bills are 7th with 16 points. Ravens come in 24th with 26 points scored. Turnover differential, Bills, and this is where we've talked about this many, many, many times, and how important, or should I say, the point of emphasis always placed upon Josh Allen, his turnovers. Right now, the Bills second in the NFL with a +5 number on turnover differential or takeaway differential. Ravens at 7th at +1. Passing yards per game, Bills 14th, 209. Ravens 10th at 227. Rush yards per game, Bills 120. They're 14th, and the Ravens are second, folks. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Derrick Henry and that Ravens running game as this day goes on, or as the show goes on. 203 yards per game. Defensive passing yards allowed, Bills 8th in the league at 168. Ravens are dead last, 291. Then you look at defensive rushing yards per game. Bills giving up 118. Ravens first in the league. Now, that's a bit skewed. They're giving up 50 yards per game. That is a bit skewed. And I will say the reason why is because they're giving up so much in the passing game. So teams are throwing the football. But we'll see how Joe Brady and that offense does. But as always, folks, we appreciate your support. If you're watching on Facebook Live, you're watching on X, hop over to YouTube and get in the comments. And also, as always, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate your support. We're on the rise. Things are moving in the right direction. That's because of you, the listener, the viewer, and we appreciate that very much. But right now, I bring my man in, my ace, my Thursday night ace, Dr. Brad Bowen from Driven Physical Therapy and Performance to go over the injury report for the Buffalo Bills. We'll get into Taron Johnson a little bit. We've heard some things this week. Maybe some people brought some things to light, but real quick, we got to mention him. He's on there, but obviously no issues. Josh Allen, the hand. Terrell Bernard out with a pectoral injury. Kaiir Elam was limited all week with a neck. Tylen Grable did not participate. He had a groin that would make me believe that he will probably be on the inactive list this week. Taron Johnson, again, the cornerback, he did not participate with a forearm. Quentin Morris still nursing that shoulder. He was full. And obviously we saw Mitchell Trubisky in the game on Monday night. He was full as well with the knee. Dr. Bowen, what's going on, man?
Happy to be back, Jerry. Thanks for having me. Thankfully,
Awesome.
It's a pretty short list this week.
Yeah, not too bad.
So I guess the best place to start would be those guys that are still practicing. So we'll start with Terrell Bernard. He's back in a limited fashion this week, which is great. He's exactly 2 weeks out today, which means he's progressing pretty quick. So at this point, for a pec injury, it means that tissue's pretty much scarred over, and he should have full range of motion, is working back to stress that tissue well enough that he's gaining back to playing form, but not so much that he's hurting himself again.
That's awesome. And obviously, you know, they're going to nurse him back. And the thing is, as far as football goes, it's a lot easier to let your guys get healthy and find their way back slowly when you have backups that have come in and performed at a high level. And obviously, Braylon Spector has been playing well as Dorian Williams. Let's talk a little bit about the news this week about Taron Johnson. There were some other entities that brought some things to light. Kind of your opinions on that. What did you see? What do you think? And do you think that that's something that is, maybe correct?
Yeah, so there's a couple things to talk about, I guess. There was some film of him during the game. Josh was coming over, and he kind of gave him a fist bump with the left arm, totally avoided the right. So I thought that was interesting before really found out the news. I can't remember the beat reporter's name, but he was reported that he had a hairline fracture. So that came out very recently in the locker room. And I guess not a huge surprise that that's what is kind of keeping him out. I still think that because of the way he's holding that arm, when you have a fracture, hairline fracture, at this point, he should be decently, through the healing process. I wouldn't think that would be causing him to guard his arm to the side. So I still believe that he's probably dealing with a lot of extra soft tissue injury, and again, potentially a nerve thing going on there as well. Coach McDermott had said in a recent press conference that both him and Bernard could be in like the 2.5 to 4 week mark. Again, we don't know how true that might be, but I think Bernard will probably be back first before Taron Johnson, but hopefully we see Taron Johnson starting to work back in the next couple of weeks in a limited fashion again, as Bernard was today.
Obviously Bernard in a red jersey, it's good that he's out moving around and things of that nature. Real quick, anything on the Kaiir Elam situation, limited with the neck? Have you heard anything, seen anything with him?
So Kaiir Elam was injured with about 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He came up to make a tackle off the edge, and he kept his head up pretty good. But as he hit the receiver in that moment, his neck was placed into extension and lateral flexion. So he's kind of jammed back into the right, if you will, is the way his neck moved. It's kind of a classic closure of the facet joint. So the joints that glide motion in our neck.
Yes.
He basically crammed that down, probably irritating that joint and causing some impingement. If you've ever woken up, you slept funny and woke up and you couldn't turn your head left or right, that's probably a lot of what Kaiir Elam was feeling the day after this happened. Usually with some soft tissue work, manipulation or mobilization of his neck, he'll gain back range of motion pretty quick. Might still be sore today, but I would expect that he's ready come this weekend if need be. But again, maybe a little bit sore, nothing a little medication can't fix on Sunday.
Tylen Grable, young guy, big guy, groin injuries can be pesky. They can linger. Your kind of maybe prediction or things that they're doing with him. I don't know if he's probably going to, I mean, obviously with the depth of that position, the Bills can activate some other players. Anything with him, what are they probably doing to get him back?
Yeah, interesting watching film on Tylen Grable. So he was placed on the IR, I think either last night or today, and they brought up Will Clapp. So I think that kind of says the extent of the injury that he's got going on. As far as determining exactly what it was, I watched several plays in the fourth quarter. That was about 10 minutes left, and I think the injury might have occurred on the play where it was 1st and 15. There was an outside zone to the left. And the first thing that I saw was he took a big reach step to perform a reach block going out to the left,
Right.
took a big step driving off that right leg. And then from there, that play kind of got a little haywire. He ended up running around towards the outside, chasing down a linebacker to the outside, and kind of like pirouetted. And in the reach block at the beginning and then that little pirouette at the end of the play, he kind of did two movements that are a typical mechanism for injury for the groin. So he kind of drove that leg out to the side, and then he almost kind of extended his hip at the same time. That could lead to anything from an actual groin tear, so we're talking muscle injury, to a labral tear, which would actually be the hip itself, or something like a hip flexor or lower abdominal. Now, I've seen everything this week from abdominal injury to groin injury, so it's pretty tough to say exactly what he did. But obviously, the severity of the injury warranted that he go on IR at this point. So when we learn a little bit more about if he had surgery or something of that nature, we'll know a lot more about it, what exactly took place in the field that day. But he made it. I think he got it out like 3 more plays, and each play looked subsequently worse.
Right. Dr. Brad Bowen joins us from Driven Physical Therapy and Performance. I want you to educate our listeners and viewers on, you just said something that I think is pretty pertinent, and maybe you can kind of fill everyone in on this. You talked about, is it groin? Is it abdominal? Is it and when you start talking about that in that region, you start talking about sports hernia injuries, I would think. And if it is a sports hernia, we think about hernias in general. People get them, you get them fixed laparoscopically, no big deal. When you start talking sports hernia, what are you specifically speaking of? And, where do you go with those?
So in a sports hernia down in the groin region, about where he was kind of grabbing, you're basically getting an opening up of that abdominal wall, basically a muscle tear in the abdominal wall. Sometimes you can get fatty tissue that pokes through, sometimes not. That tear in the wall can lead to pretty extreme pain and limitations in movement. And usually what ends up happening from a repair standpoint is they go in with mesh that will allow it to kind of scar over and heal up, and then they suture it up. Well, from that point, you're pretty much immobile for a couple weeks early on before you're allowed to kind of weight bear and do anything after that. So it's pretty easily fixed injury from the standpoint of what it requires from surgery, but getting a guy of Grable's size back up and moving, if that is an inguinal hernia, is not the easiest thing in the world, and could be looking at a couple of months before he feels a lot better.
He's Dr. Brad Bowen, Driven Physical Therapy and Performance. Hey, let our listeners know real quick if they have something going on, not only with themselves or a loved one, a wife, kids they want to bring in, or hey, they might be weekend athletes, weekend warriors, golfers, whatever, and they just want to get better and do some different things to help with their performance. Let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can find me at drivenptperformance.com, or you can give me a call at 716-341-9694.
Brad, we appreciate your time as always. We'll catch you next week, and man, have a good rest of the week and a good weekend.
Thanks, Jerry. Go Bills.
All right, go Bills. He is Dr. Brad Bowen. Of course, he joins us every week on the Big O Show as we take a look into this week's opponent, or every week's opponent. And we'll have on here in a few minutes Daniel Wilcox, 8-year NFL vet. He was a tight end, Super Bowl champion with the Ravens, played with the Bucs and the Jets. He's also the host of Believe in Ravens, and we'll get him on to talk a little bit about the game this weekend. Again, 8:20 Sunday night football on NBC, also on Peacock, that game being played at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. I truly believe this is the first real test for this Bills football team. Even after week 1, even after a couple of drives, a quarter and a half, and the Bills faced a little bit of adversity at the home opener against the Cardinals, I never felt uneasy about it. I felt the Bills are going to be able to step up. I thought they're going to be able to take care of business like they did, and they did do that. They had a good performance as the game went on, but and then obviously Miami boat raced right away. Then you go to the next week against Jacksonville, a boat race right away. So they really haven't faced true adversity this season. And this is a Ravens team that plays very, very well on defense and offensively. Defensively, they're an interesting group. You will see them play some 4-man front. They'll also play a 3-man front on passing downs. Their 4-man front, they got 2 inside guys. They'll shade a center, shade a guard, and then 2 defensive ends. Van Noy is one of those guys that'll be standing up outside. And he's a guy that they rely on not only to play the run, which he plays the run really, really well, but also plays the pass. So you look at them, they base out of that. It's kind of a hybrid. They give you a 4-man front, but it's really kind of a hybrid 3-man front. And then you look at them on offense. Offensively, of course, everything goes through Lamar Jackson. And they will line up. They will run motion. They will give you some ghost stuff. They will do some things that are a little bit funky, okay? This is a team that can do some stuff like the Bills do, but they also will line up with a fullback in the backfield, and they will run downhill at you. They will also line up in 2 tight ends, and they will play power football. Their offensive line is a physical group. Now, we will talk with Daniel here in a few moments about that offensive line, as they've got 3 guys on the injury list right now. And so we'll talk about that. One of those is starting left guard Andrew Voorhees. Their center, Tyler Lindenbaum, is on that list. And then they have the guy who backs up Voorhees. He is also on that injured list. So that could greatly affect their running game and also their pass blocking game. They do a lot of stuff that has some college to it with Lamar, because Lamar is very comfortable doing those types of things. And it shouldn't shock anybody that Todd Monken, who is a former college OC, former college head coach, is their offensive coordinator. And he does a really, really good job with some of those zone reads and things of that nature to get Lamar on the edge where he can use his athleticism. But right now, I'm going to bring in my next guest. He is the host of Believe in Ravens. And as we talked about earlier, 8-year NFL vet, Super Bowl champion. He's with the Ravens, the Bucks, the Jets. He's the host of Believe in Ravens podcast. I'm grateful for him because he jumped in and was willing to come on today. He's Daniel Wilcox. Daniel, what's going on, man?
I'm great, Jerry. How are you today, buddy? Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. No problem at all. I'll tell you, I got to ask right off the bat.
Okay.
The injury situation with your offensive line. We were just talking about it a little bit. Any news out of Baltimore as far as those guys go? You got guys healthy. They all going to play. I know they're listed as questionable, but how's that group's health looking as we move towards Sunday night?
I'm not 100% sure right now, Jo. I'm sure we'll find out pretty much probably the day before the game. To be honest with you, a lot of times they like to keep that stuff hush hush, even though they're not supposed to. But they're not trying to give the Bills any kind of advantage that they could possibly give them before this game starts. So I don't really have any news coming out of Baltimore telling us exactly who's 100% and who's not. You know, if these guys are at 70%, they're gonna play.
You know, it's funny is I'd like to think that I'm important enough that the Bills would actually listen to this podcast or vidcast and
no, right.
maybe try to get some information. But for some reason, I don't think that's quite happening, man. I don't think that's really going down.
Right.
But real fast, Ravens start a little bit slow, and then you watch them against the Dallas Cowboys this past week, and they look like the Ravens of old. Kind of what was their quick turnaround as far as getting back to that Ravens team that I know and love? I mean, hell, my son has been a Ravens fan as well as a Bills fan, but I love Ravens football. Physical, play defense, run the ball. What was the turning point?
I think last year Monken was a new OC, you know, so this year he's kind of, you know, he got one full year underneath his belt. the AFC Championship last year was a tough game, a tough loss for us, and we kind of got away from who we were in that game. You know, we kind of lost our identity, went in there throwing the ball 80-some% of the time. And instead of running the ball, we was the number 1 rushing offense in the league last year. You get to the AFC Championship, and then you fumble the ball. You know, so I think this season, you know, it's going to take some time, probably 3 or 4 weeks. This is week 4 for us, so this is basically our 4th preseason game the way I look at it, because none of these guys played in preseason. So, you know, those preseason games usually give you a chance to get those jitters out, to kind of get the coach, you know, on part with the rest of the team and the rest of the players, and you try to get all these guys working smoothly and cohesively together. The timing, even the OC just trying to figure out who to get the ball to. You know, I just did a breakdown. I want to say in my last show where I just talked about, you know, roughly every single game on offense and defense, each side of the ball get roughly about 60 reps. And when you get 60 reps and you have so much talent like the Baltimore Ravens do on offense, you got to figure out who you're going to spread the ball to every single week. So if you're going to give Derrick Henry 15 of those reps, you got to at least get Lamar 15 of those reps. So that's 30 of those reps. That's already half your reps gone. Then you got a Zay Flowers, a Mark Andrews, a Isaiah Likely, a Nelson Aguilar, a Rashad Bateman. You know, you got all these guys, and let's not forget about Justice Hill. Justice Hill get another 10 of those reps too. So just with Lamar, Derrick Henry, and Justice Hill, you're taking out 40 of those reps. That leaves 20 plays for the rest of the guys. And then you know as well as I know, J.O., like these games, man, there's always about 5 to 10 plays that just always just don't turn out the way you want them to. You know, tip ball at the line of scrimmage, sack, pressure, rush out of the pocket, go the opposite direction. There's so many different things that happen to offense that messes things up. So I just think Monken had just needs some time to kind of get his rhythm down, understand who's the most important players on his team, on his squad, with a new guy coming in like Henry, just gave a contract extension to Justice Hill. And then you got a Zay Flowers that's so dynamic, man. You want to get everybody the ball, but how can you with only 60 reps averaging per game? And it's a hard task to climb. And, you know, so that's just from the OC standpoint. Now you got a quarterback who also getting these same play calls coming in from his headset, and now he has to decipher who he's going to get the ball to keep these guys happy so they don't get pissed off. And, you know, now you start to unravel your entire offense, man. So it's a hard thing to do, man. And I know you guys have to battle with that same thing. When, you know, that's probably why y'all let Stephon Diggs go. You know, he wants the ball 30 times a game. Like, give me the ball 20 times a game. At least give me 20 looks. And that 20 looks take up a lot of your reps, man. At the most, he should get 10. Zay Flowers should get 10. You know, and that's how it should be for your star receivers. Get them at least 10 shots. If they get 10 catches and 100 yards, they're usually happy.
Especially when you got a team with a lot of talent across the board like the Bills do, just like the Ravens. Big Justice Hill fans down here. I'm actually based out of Tulsa, Booker T. Washington grad, so much love to Justin. But, hey, real fast, you're talking about Monken, and I got to ask you this. I was watching some All-22 on the Ravens offense, and it seems like he's finally, you know, embraced a little bit of what Lamar does really, really well. And, you know, Joe Brady does it also with Josh Allen and the Bills, to where he's brought a little bit of some of the college stuff that maybe he ran back in the day at TCU, and is doing some stuff with Lamar that has a college, you know, background to it, but it's stuff he does really, really well, and he just gashes off defenses with it.
I agree. You know, to me, these things are like relationships, like getting married, right? OC comes in, he has to marry the quarterback. The quarterback got to marry the OC. They both got to say, I do. If one come in with a bigger ego than the other one, then it starts to kind of clash, and the things really don't work out. A really great OC in this league, in my opinion, will come in and ask the star quarterback, man, what do you like?
Right.
You know, what are your favorite plays? Give me your top 5, top 10 favorite plays. And I'm going to figure out a way to incorporate those 5 or 10 plays. And I'm going to incorporate wrinkles off those 5 or 10 plays. That's what a great OC would do. The problem is you get OCs that come in, and it's just like your wife probably tell you, just like my wife tell me, lose your ego, man. Leave your ego at the door, right? Yep. You get OCs that come in and they're so stuck into their offensive game plan. And this is what's worked for me these last 3 or 4 years. I got to run what works. And now you forcing something on somebody that really don't fit. It's like trying to stick a round peg into a square hole. It don't work, you know? So, and I think Lamar has gotten a lot of that over his career. There's too many critics. There's too many people got something to say. The man is a dynamic football player. Let the man be a football player. I don't care how he get it done. Let him get it done. I don't care if he rushes for 100 yards, he throws for 200. That's still 300 yards total for him. take it just like you would take a Brett Favre throwing for 300 or Aaron Rodgers throwing for 300 or Brady throwing for 300. I don't care how he get to 300, 400, 500 yards a game, right, as long as he gets there. And I think it's too many people trying to dictate what kind of player Lamar Jackson is. And then I don't feel like Josh Allen get that same heat. You know, Josh Allen goes out there and ball. He runs the ball. He might rush for 70 yards, 80 yards, 100 yards. Nobody said, man, why is he running the ball? You know, but that's what they do to Lamar. They scrutinize him. So I think Monken has finally figured out, you know, what kind of juice that Lamar needs in order to push him. Like that first game we played this year, when we came in, we lost by an inch, right? You know, Isaiah likely toe, right?
Yep.
That game. And when you see that game, Lamar came in so freaking aggressive. J.O., I loved it. I really loved it. It made me happy to see him be aggressive. I didn't care if he rushed for 200 yards that game. I didn't care if he threw for 100 yards. I didn't care what he did. As long as we won that game, and we end up losing by a toenail. You know, so here we go. Round 4.
You know, it's funny and you're right. I mean, there's so many people that want to take guys like Lamar and Josh Allen and say, you got to stay in the pocket. You're going to get hurt. Man, this is who they are. Exactly. This is why they're the quarterbacks they are. And it shouldn't matter. And it's funny that we talk about Monken, and I know a lot about Monken's background as well. He was an OSU coordinator, then also at TCU, and then a head coach at Southern Mississippi. But, you know, now we've got Joe Brady, who was the offense coordinator and one of the guys that coached that group with Joe Burrow and OBJ and Jarvis and all them down in LSU, right? He has embraced a lot of that as well. But before we hop over to defense, I just want to ask you real quick, what does Derrick Henry mean to this football team? I mean, obviously was one of the top free agents available this offseason. Baltimore gets him, and I was like, oh, Lord. Of all the places for him to go, that's like one of two that I don't really care to see him go to, because I knew what he would mean to this group. Just really, what's his impact been?
I think for me, you know, being a former Raven myself and playing 5 years in Baltimore and bounced around the league a little bit, the Ravens have always had this tougher than life mentality, this black sheep type mentality. Everybody hate the Baltimore Ravens, and I think it's a physical thing that we bring, a physical element that we bring to every time we step foot on the field. When people see us, they like, oh man, this is gonna be a tough one this week. They know it's gonna be a smash 'em up, bang bang type of game. It's always gonna be big hits. It's always gonna be big plays, huge plays. It's gonna happen throughout the game when you play against a team like Baltimore. It's gonna be a physical game. Buffalo knows it. Everybody knows it. The entire league knows it. So when you go pick up a back like Derrick Henry, and he's been notoriously known for having the most dynamic stiff arm in the entire league, I think that continuously kind of stay right along that same track of who the Ravens have always been. When I got there, I was blocking for a guy that was bigger than me, Jamal Lewis, you know, and then he leaves, and then Willis McGahee comes in, and he's one of the most physical running backs that was in the league too. He's a solid guy, you know, and we had a bunch of guys like that. You know, our fullbacks have always been big and physical, from the Allen Ricards to the Lorenzo Neals to the Ovi Mahaleys, who's doing the Atlanta Falcons show down on the Believe Network right now. And I mean, it's so many physical guys that we've had on offense, but then you turn around and you look at our defensive side of the ball, and they tell you, just like you said, we transitioned over, right? But you look at the defensive side, Ray has set the standard for what we're supposed to look like on defense. J.O. has set the standard for what we're supposed to look like on offense, and Jamal Lewis was a huge factor in that. So we're used to running the ball down your throat. Yep. We're going to run the ball right at you. You know exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to punish you. I don't care who you are, what you bring in, you're not going to stop us. And then on defense, we got that same mentality. You won't score 21 points. At one point, they wouldn't let you score 10 here. You know, so when I came in, it was like Ray told us, all y'all got to do is score 21. We'll win every game. And I mean, that's the mentality that we had. All we had to do was score 3 touchdowns. We're going to win every game. All right, let's figure this out, guys. Come on, you know, get your mindset right, man. So, and you kind of look at right now, that's kind of what Pittsburgh mantra have always been. You know, they're still curtain the whole 9 yards. They kind of play smash mouth football from day 1 too, and right now they're 3-0 right now, with nobody scoring over 10 points on them. That's how the Ravens used to play back in the day, and we got to get back to playing that type of football. And I think once we understand exactly how to use Derrick, how many times we're going to give him the ball, I think people are going to be extremely shocked what this team looks like in about 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now, 10 weeks from now. People are going to be blown away how great the Baltimore Raven team is going to be.
Daniel Wilcox joins us, 8-year NFL vet, Super Bowl champ. He's with the Ravens, Bucks, and Jets. He's now the host of the Believe in Ravens podcast. I'm really blessed to have him on today. I appreciate him coming on. And, you know, as a guy that played against Ray and Goose and Sam and Ed and all those cats, you know, I understand what Ravens defense is about. and then you look at this group that is, they're only giving up 50 yards a game rushing, but
Right.
their passing numbers, the passing yards are a little bit high. Where's that skew? What do you kind of attest that to? Because this is a very good group.
It's Zach Orr. You got a new defensive coordinator, and it's not Zach Orr's fault. Let me make sure I say that. It's not Zach Orr's fault. He's a former player. It's his first time being a defensive coordinator in this league. He was just underneath Mike McDonald when Mike McDonald left to go to Seattle. He was underneath Mike for the last couple of years, but he's a young guy that retired from playing football from an injury, and now here he is coaching, and he has a defense that he's installing for the very first time on this level. This is the greatest level you could possibly play football on, people. Like, there's no higher level than NFL. There's no Olympics for the NFL. I mean, for football, so the NFL is it. This is the Olympics of football. So every DC, every OC that we're going against week in and week out are the best of the best of the best of the best. So Zach Orr has to come in, and he has to continue to learn and continue to grow as a defensive coordinator. And his guys have to buy 100% into his new system that he's installing. And right now, what you're seeing, like even the first game against the Chiefs, we gave up a cheap touchdown to Worthy on a busted coverage.
Yes.
And 2 years ago when Mike McDonald was all DC just coming fresh out of Michigan, we did the same thing. We blew games. We lost to the Miami Dolphins in the fourth quarter. They scored 4 or 5 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to beat us, and that's stuff that's uncharacteristic of Baltimore. But when you got a new DC the way we got one, and he's learning this system, he's getting things done for the first time. Guys are busting coverages. Stuff is not coming in clean. The signals may get crossed up. Somebody might forget a call or miss a call or forget to signal the call back to the next level. And then you get busted plays, man. And that's kind of what's happening right now. That Dallas game, you started to scratch your head towards the end of that Dallas game because it was like, oh my God, well, here we go again. We're giving up points in the third and fourth quarter with a big lead. Normally in this defense, from Rex Ryan all the way down, if we get up by 2 touchdowns, we're pinning our ears back and we coming after your quarterback. And we're doing it every single play. You got to figure out how to get the ball out of your hand within 2 seconds flat, because if you don't, you're going to be flat on your back.
When you look at this defense, it wants to be a 3-man front, but then you go ahead and look and they run a lot of 4-man front. What are they really trying to get into? I know passing downs, they like to be in that 3-man front. They run a lot of stunts with Queen and some of the linebackers involved in those twists and games. But when you look at some of the running downs, 2 stand-up ends, 2 inside guys playing more of a traditional over-under look, what does this defense really want to be?
That's a great question, J.O. I think, honestly, 100%, this is my professional opinion on that. We want to stop the run. We want to stop the run by all means. That's like you said, we're averaging 50 yards per game rushing against our defense. We've always been known to be run stoppers. So we want to stop the run first, and we want to make you have to throw the ball. We believe we got the best secondary in the whole world. So the guys that we got on the back end, we feel like those guys will make up for anything that we mess up on the front end. So we want to make sure that you don't run the ball on us and force you to have to throw the ball on us. And when you throw the ball on us, we're going to start making plays. Kyle Hamilton's going to get picks. Marcus Williams going to get picks. We just got a new kid, Nate Wiggins, fresh out of Clemson. He's an Atlanta guy from down my area, Westlake High School guy. That's a dog. We can't wait to see him play. Brandon Stevens played phenomenal last year, got a contract extension. Marlon Humphrey's a dog over at the other corner. And we just feel like we're better than you on the back end. Yeah, it hasn't showed yet, but it's coming. It kind of happened like that last season too. If you go back, look at the beginning of the last season, we started off really slow. And I think a lot of that is attrition to us not having a preseason anymore. The guys don't play in preseason. So once the season starts, week 1 is your first preseason game for these guys. They starting to get back into the swing of things. I believe in the next couple of weeks, you'll start to see our defensive secondary start to show up and make plays. We already got a couple of turnovers last week. It's coming. Nate Wiggins calls the formal. Marlon Humphrey's got an interception. They're starting to come, and when they start to come, they usually come in bunches, and I just can't wait to see it, man. I'm excited for it. I hate losing games, even when I'm not playing. When they lose, I feel like I lose. I even got my Buffalo Bills colors on today right now, just representing your show. I wore my Ravens red hat and my Buffalo Bills red, white, and blue Ravens tee. Just giving you guys some love and giving Jerry some love for bringing me on the show, but at the same time, I want to win. I bleed purple. Right. I can't wait to see us win, man. I want to go in there and I want to represent Baltimore the way we're supposed to. Charm City is really charming, but at the end of the day, it's one of the most dangerous places you could be.
I'm a Philly native. I know all about Baltimore, man.
Right.
Believe me, I know all about it. Rough East Coast. But real quick, before I ask you my final question, Daniel, just let everybody know where they can get your stuff and your content. Like I said, I appreciate you jumping in. You've been awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the invite, Jo. So on Twitter, I'm at Coach Wilcox. On IG, I am Daniel.Wilcox on IG. And then also, we're the Believe in the Ravens podcast, and you can find us on pretty much every single platform there is for any iPod, Spotify's, you name them, Apple Music. We're on everything. So I appreciate Jerry for having me on, man. And good luck to the city of Buffalo. It's a great place. I've played there when it was the coldest of the cold, and I like crossing over the border to Canada too. So I appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all for having me on, Jo.
Hey, Daniel, last question. How do the
Yes,
Ravens stop Josh Allen? Because obviously, just like Bobby Babbitt Jr., the defense coordinator of Buffalo, and McDermott are sitting there trying to figure out how to stop Lamar. How does that coaching staff and those players in Baltimore stop Josh Allen?
I think it's one of those things where you don't stop a guy like Josh. Josh is a dynamic QB. He's one of my top threes in this NFL right now, in this league right now, and he's a dynamic player. I think he's a contained guy versus a stop guy. You don't stop him, you contain him. You disrupt all the timing with his receivers. You bump and run as much as you possibly can. You disguise defenses and defensive coverages so you confuse them a little bit just to slow him down a split second so your guys could get to him, coming off the edge. And you apply pressure any kind of way you can, twist, stunts, anything you could do to kind of confuse those O-linemen. I loved when Rex Ryan started like the overload stuff where we'll put 4 or 5 guys on one side of the ball, and then we'll only send one, and then everybody else will drop, and then they'll pick off. The D lineman was picking off passes. It was crazy. So I love that type of stuff, man. It's really confusing for a guy like myself playing H-back, tight end, fullback. You break the huddle. You got 10 seconds to line up, and you're checking off stuff at the line of scrimmage, and the guys are standing up, moving around. You can't tell who's the D lineman, who's the linebacker, who's the outside backer, who's the Mike. You can't tell who's who. So you're dropping back trying to protect the QB, and the next thing you know, a guy flies by you that you thought was that was going to drop out in coverage or something. It's hard, man. It's one of those things that really confuse you. So to me, you just got to kind of keep things off kilter, jam guys at the line of scrimmage so they don't get out on their routes right away. Put guys over the top of their best guys so that he don't get the ball, and you double team, you take out his best target. You always take away the best target, and then you stop the run. You stop the run hand down, you force him to pass. You got to get up on him early so he don't have no choice but to pass to play catch up, and then you pin your ears back and you get after him like a bunch of bloodhounds.
He's Daniel Wilcox, Believe in Ravens. Daniel, man, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me, and anytime we can reciprocate, please feel free to reach out, man.
Will do, man. Thanks, Big O. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Daniel Wilcox, Believe in Ravens. Awesome guest. Tons of information. I'm telling you, if you got people out there that don't know about the show, tell them about the show, because that right there is some of the best info you'll get on a rival or a game that you're playing this week, and as far as an opponent goes for the Buffalo Bills. Real fast, my 3 keys to the game before we get out of here on this Thursday night on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe. Again, I'm the Big O Jerry Ostroski, and you can catch me here every Thursday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. My 3 keys to the game: can the Bills stop Derrick Henry and the Ravens running game? I think if those offensive linemen are banged up and they go ahead and maybe aren't 100%, it gives us a better chance. We've talked about it in the past. I believe the Bills are a little bit weak up the middle. Derrick might get some runs this week. He might get break a couple here and there. But once again, that Bills style of defense, know your assignment, be 100% on your assignment, and keep everything in front of you and fly to the football and gang tackle the ball. And I think if the Bills do that, they'll eliminate those explosive plays or limit them and give themselves a really, really good chance to win. My second key to the game is, how does that Bills defense, like Daniel just talked about with Josh Allen, how do they contain Lamar Jackson? They're doing a lot more college football concept stuff with Lamar Jackson, a lot of zone reads. They run quarterback counter. They get him involved in the running game. Do they play with a spy? If they do, it's probably a guy like Williams who can run really, really well. Me personally, I think a lot of it has to do with coverage. If the Bills are trying to play a bunch of man or play man coverage and those guys have their backs turned to the line of scrimmage, they can't see them when Lamar gets out. And now all of a sudden he's ripping off 30, 40, 50 yards. They got to have their eyes on the quarterback. Bills maybe play a little bit more zone coverage this game and try to keep him from making those big plays. Because I'll tell you, the thing about Lamar, as well as he can get outside, he can also bust you up the middle as well. And then also my third key to the game, can the Bills run versus this Baltimore #1 rush defense? Again, I talked a little bit about it earlier in the show. Some of this is skewed. They're not as good against the pass, so teams are willing to pass. but this is an elite run-stopping defense with the Baltimore Ravens. Motion, shadows, mirror, all those things are a must when playing against this Ravens team on Sunday night. You know, the Cowboys, when they played against them, they're very stagnant. They lined up in formation, maybe moved one guy, kind of your standard motion stuff, not a lot of ingenuity. And when the Ravens can see that and they can pin their ears back, they're a tough group to block. So those are my keys to the game, folks. I hope you enjoy the game on Sunday night. We'll be back here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network on Sunday night to talk about the Bills-Ravens matchup, as we'll be on with the Overreaction post-game show. And then, of course, Monday, John Fina off tackle. Tuesday on the beat. Wednesday is the Hump Day Hotline. Thursday, I'll be back here again to talk about the next game. Friday, if these walls could talk. We got a lot of content out there, folks. Check us out on YouTube, all the streaming platforms, all the podcasting platforms. Our stuff is out there. And again, hit the like, hit the subscribe. We appreciate you as always, folks. Man, we're going places because you guys watch and put eyeballs and ears to this, and we really, really appreciate you. So as we go towards Sunday and the big matchup in Baltimore, I only got one thing to say, folks, man. Much love and go Bills.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma. Same old dreams hanging off my shoulders. Wishing